Bava Kamma daf Samach Tes begins discussing halacha said by Rabbi Yechanan about whether you can be makdish something which is not in your property. We'll have some questions in Rabbi Yechanan's shita as to whether he really holds this way or not. So let's begin. We've said in our last sugya that Rabbi Yechanan holds that if something got stolen from Ruvain, but he wasn't miyayish, so Shimon stole it. Shimon's holding the object, and Ruvain owns the object. So says Rabbi Yechanan, neither of them can be makdish it. So you can't be makdish something unless you both own it and have possession of it. Ruvain owns it, but he doesn't have possession of it. Shimon has possession of it, but he doesn't own it. So neither of them could be makdish. So the Gemara begins by asking that there is a Stam Mishnah, and Rabbi Yechanan always holds like a Stam Mishnah. That seems to say that even though you don't have possession of something, you could transfer Kedusha to it or from it. And that is discussing a field which is Kerem Revai, its fourth year of growth. And the halacha is that it's like Master Sheni, it has Kedusha, you have to take it to Yerushalayim. However, we'll see that there's a Stam, a Mishnah, an opinion without a name, that seems to hold that you could transfer the Kedusha even though it's out of your possession. So let's see the Mishnah. The Mishnah is discussing these Revai fields that people used to steal from them. And they didn't know that it was Revai. So the question is, how could we prevent them from being over the Severa? So we have this Mishnah that says that they would make simanim, they would make signs around this field and other types of land that people shouldn't be touching to show them what it is. So the signs were as follows. If it was Revai, they used to put clumps of mud, clumps of earth around it, and that was a simon that it was Revai, because just like earth produces after a while, you have to plant and water and plow, and eventually you get something out of it. So Revai is also something which becomes mutter after some time. When you take it to Yerushalayim, it becomes mutter afterwards. Or you can redeem it. Now, a field that was actually Arla, so there's no heter for that, so it was in the first 3 years. So there they would make simanim around it using earthenware shingles, because those you can never plant, you're never going to get anything out of them. So just like they are not going to give you any hana forever, you're not going to get anything out of Arla forever. It's always aser bahana. Now, kvarim, graves had to be marked also, so they were marked with lime that was ground up and mixed with water, which produces a white layer, just like the bones are white, this is white as well. So these are all the simanim that they made. Now the question is, when did they make these simanim, and what circumstances? So Shimon ben Gamliel says, if it wasn't hefker, we didn't care. If people want to steal, let them hurt themselves, it's their own problem. This was when it was on Shemitah. And people would think it was hefker, and they would take it, so we tell them, no, it's Kerem Revai by making these simanim. Then there's the Tznuim. The Tznuim are the Tzadikim, as it were, so they say that they used to actually set money aside so that the people would steal it. The Tznuim would say that the fruits which are taken from the field, transfer Kedusha onto this money. That way, it's redeemed, and there's no iser of net revai on the things that they stole. So the problem is how did those tznuim work? Once it got stolen, you can't transfer Kedusha anymore according to Rabbi Yechanan because it's out of your rishus. And Rabbi Yechanan holds like the Stama Mishnah, the tznuim aren't named, so you see that they are Stam Mishnah. So the Gemara says maybe the tznuim are really Rav Shimon ben Gamliel. It's a continuation of what he said. He said we don't really care about them, but the tznuim would put this aside, but it was still him speaking, and therefore it's not a Stama Mishnah. The Gemara says that's still not going to help because Rabbi Bechana says him, of Rabbi Yechanan himself, that anytime Rav Shimon ben Gamliel says something in the Mishnah, the halacha is like him with 3 exceptions, 2 which we learned in Gittin, Erev and Tzidain, and then Raya Achrayna in Masechas Sanhedrin. So therefore, you still have a problem here either way, either because he holds like a Stam and Mishnah, or because he holds like Rosh and Gamliel. So the Gemara answers, they have to make a slight adjustment here. It's not that they said that the Kedusha should be transferred to the money from things which were taken already, but things which are going to be taken in the future. That means that they are still in the property of the owner. And we don't know which ones those things are, but Yesh Breira will say what they are. So he's taking the Kedusha off those now while they're still in his possession. So the Gemara follows up that that's not possible because Rabbi Yechanan puts this opinion of the Tznuim together with an opinion of Rabbi Doisa and a machlekes between Rabbi Doisa and Rabbi Yehuda in a similar situation. And the way you want to explain the Tznuim fits with Rabbi Yehuda, not with Rabbi Doisa, which Rabbi Yechanan says it should fit with. What's that machlekes about? So that's a brisa, which is discussing leket. So leket is stalks of grain which are going to fall from the hands of the harvesters. So if one or two stalks fall, it becomes leket and it's hefker for the aniyim. If more fall, it's not. The problem is sometimes the aniyim don't know the halacha and they take when it's more, which is really stealing. So in order to solve the problem, the owner of the field would be mafkarit. He would voluntarily be mafkarit for the aniyim, even if it was not halachically leket. And the question between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Daisa is, when was he mafkarit? According to Rabbi Yehuda, he would do it before they took it. He would stand in the field in the morning and say anything which the aniyim are going to take the rest of the day today should become hefker. That's very similar to what the tznuim are doing here, according to the way we want to explain it now, that they were referring to the future and they were relying on breira to say the thing of being mafker now, the things which are going to be taken soon. Now, however, that's not what Rabbi Daisa learned. Rabbi Daisa said it was only in the evening after the aniyim took them already that the Baal Bayis stood there and he said whatever they took is hefker if it wasn't halachically valid leket. Now, that means that Rabbi Yechon puts a B'daisa together with the Tznuim, that the Tznuim are also saying that it was done afterwards, not in advance, like we want to adjust it. Someone says, okay, flip the opinions of Rabbi Huda and Rabbi Daisa. Rabbi Daisa is the one who says that they did it going forward, and therefore Rabbi Yechon, when he puts it together with its Tznuim in our Mishnah, that fits. So the Gemara says, why do you want to flip the machlekes between Rabbi Daisa and Rabbi Huda? Why don't you just flip what Rabbi Yechon said? And instead of saying that the tznuim go like Rabbi Daisa, have him say that the tznuim go like Rabbi Yehuda, and keep it the way it is. The Gemara answers because the way we have it, Rabbi Yehuda relies on breira, because he's saying future. The problem is Rabbi Yehuda, we see elsewhere in the Mishnah in Eruvin, doesn't hold of breira. That's why we want to flip Rabbi Yehuda to be the side which says that it was in the evening afterwards, because he doesn't hold of breira. What's the case where we see that Rabbi Yehuda doesn't hold of breira? So the Mishnah there brought from Demai, also brought in Eruvin, discusses someone who bought wine from the kusim, so it's tevel, and he's not allowed to drink it. He has to take off truma, ma'aser, ma'aser sheni. But it's Erev Shabbos, he doesn't have time to be matakin it. He doesn't have time to separate it, and he needs the wine now for Shabbos. So what should he do? So he should say, I'm going to separate it after Shabbos. Those things which I'm going to separate after Shabbos, the 2% is truma, 10% is ma'aser rishon, and 9 is ma'aser sheni. So then he should take money and transfer the kedusha from the ma'aser sheni to the money, because whatever he could at least fix, he should. And then he can drink the wine, because whatever he's going to drink now is obviously not from the truma, ma'aser, or ma'aser sheni that he's going to separate later, and it'll be hover l'mafreya what it was. So that's relying on breira. So that's the opinion of Rabbi Meir says you can do that. However, Rabbi Yehuda or Rabbi Yossi Rishon would say you can't, and that pashtus is because they don't hold of breira. So you see Rabbi Yehuda doesn't hold of breira, and that's what we want to make Rabbi Yehuda in our Mishnah not hold of breira. So Gemara says, okay, very nice. You fixed up Rabbi Yehuda's opinion because he had a contradiction between Rabbi Yehuda in the case of leket and Rabbi Yehuda here in the case of the wine. However, you also have a Stephen Rabbi Yechanan, because your answer wants to say that Rabbi Yechanan holds of breira, because Rabbi Yechanan is saying, the way you want to explain it, that the future things which are going to be stolen, that is what he's being mechalal for the Kerem Revai case. The problem is that Rabbi Yechanan doesn't hold of breira, and Rabbi Yechanan says that in a case, in a situation of inheritance, you have two brothers inheriting property from their father, there's two ways of looking at it. Rabbi Yechanan says you look at it as if they each inherited the entire thing, they became owners in the entire thing, and then they make a trade with each other. One trades half of what he has for full ownership in the other half, and therefore they are purchasers from each other because they traded. As opposed to the other way of looking at it is that each one inherits half, and that relies on breira, because each one got the half which belongs to him. The half which was supposed to come to him is the one that he got originally. Now, that relies on breira. Rabbi Yechanan doesn't hold that. You see, Rabbi Yechanan doesn't hold of breira, so you have a contradiction. How could we answer? Pshat and Kerem Revai is that Rabbi Yechanan is holding of breira there, but Rabbi Yechanan doesn't hold of breira. So, says the Gemara, therefore we're going to have to reject this entire strategy. We're going to have to say, okay, no, we learned wrong Pshat and Rabbi Yechanan. Rabbi Yechanan really says that it's the things which are taken already, the Kerem Revai. He does not hold of breira, and you're right that this Stam Mishnah seems to hold that you can transfer Kedusha from something which is not in your possession. Rabbi Yechanan, however, who said that you cannot, was referring to a different Stam Mishnah elsewhere, and he's passing like that Stam Mishnah. What's that Stam Mishnah? That's a Mishnah that says that somebody who steals from a thief doesn't have to pay kefel, And the Gemara says that proves that you can't transfer anything. You don't have control of something which is not in your possession. Why? Because I understand why the thief who steals from the thief doesn't pay kefil to the first thief, because the Torah says v'gunav mibesa ish. When you steal something from a person from the owner's house, you pay kefil to him, not if you steal from a thief. However, he let him still pay kefil to the original owner because he stole something which belongs to the original owner. So he should pay kefil for that. So the answer is he doesn't pay kefil for that because that person didn't have it in his possession. He didn't take it from that man's possession. He may be the owner, but he wasn't the possessor. And therefore you didn't take it from him. You don't have to pay kefil for that. So this Mishnah holds that if you don't have possession of it, you don't have control over it. And Rebbe Yechon is passing like that. So says the Gemara, why is Rebbe Yechon choose a passing like this Stam Mishnah over the Stam Mishnah about the Tznuim with the Kerem Ravai? My answer is because there's a pasuk that supports him and says V'ishki Akdish is basically Kodesh Hashem. The person is Makdish his house, it's Kodesh to Hashem, just like his house is in his possession, because you can't steal a house. Any property which you want to be Makdish has to be in your possession. Okay, now the Gemara refers back to the sugya of the Tznuim, and the Gemara has some more comments on that. So we've seen before that Rabbi Yechon holds that Rabbi Doisa, or perhaps Rabbi Yehuda, depending if you switch it or not, holds like the Tznuim. The Tznuim are the ones who said that if people are stealing and it's Kerem Ravai, we're going to fix it so that they shouldn't be over on Kerem Ravai. Rabbi Doisa said that if the Aniyim, who mistakenly will take things which aren't like it because they think it's like it, will be mafkir to fix that also. So Rabbi Yechon said that it's the same opinion. Said Abaya would have said not quite the same. The case of the Tznuim is a bigger chiddush, and therefore the Tznuim will for sure hold the Rabbi Doisa, but the Rabbi Doisa will not hold the Tznuim. And the reason is because the Tznuim, they're literally stealing. They're doing an Aveira. So why would we it's a bigger chiddush to say what we would want to help them. In Rabbi Doisa's case, it's Aniyim who just don't know the halacha, and there it's easier to understand. Now, says Rava, I would have said, if not for Rabbi Yechanan, I would have said that the case of the Tznuim with the Kerem Ravai is very different than the case of the Leket, and there's no comparison between the two. This is also going to help explain why you can transfer the Kedusha even though it's not in your possession. So it says Rava, if not for Rabbi Yechanan, I would have said that the whole case of the Tznuim is Rabbi Meir's opinion. Rabbi Meir discusses when you have Meiser in your possession, something which you set aside to be Meiser. Does that belong to you? Says Rabbi Meir, it does not belong to you. It belongs to, it's Momen Gavaya. The Torah said, separate it, take it to Yerushalayim, or redeem it, but it's not your property. It's Momen Gavaya. Now, if it's Momen Gavaya, so if it's not yours, the halacha should be that when you redeem it, you don't have to add a fifth. The halacha of redeeming Meiser, and the same thing applies to Kerem Ravai, is that if the owner, the original farmer, redeems it, he has to add a fifth of the value. If someone else redeems it, he doesn't have to add a fifth. So since it's Momen Gavaya, it doesn't really belong to you. You shouldn't have to add a fifth. But the Torah makes it as if it was yours. It's Momen Gavaya, it does not belong to you. The Torah considers it like it's yours, and that's why you have to add a fifth. Same thing applies to Kerem Ravai because of Gzeira Shava with the word Kodesh. Kodesh by Meiser, it says V'chol Meiser Haaretz Mizera Haaretz Mepriya Eitz Hashem Kodesh, and by Ravai it says Kodesh Hilulim. So the word Kodesh is in both. The same halacha applies to both. Now, therefore, what's Rabbi Meir saying? That Meiser and Kerem Ravai are not yours, but it's considered halachically as if it were yours. So that, says Rava, I would think is the pshat why you're allowed to be machal Kerem Ravai even though people stole it from you already, because it's not yours anyway. It's not your it's not your property anyway. So if it's not in your possession, what's the big deal? That's what I would have thought is a special halacha there, and that's the pshat there. If that's true, that would have nothing to do with the case of the leket. The leket belongs to you. And therefore, it's a totally different chiddush, it's a totally different halacha to say that the owner of the field could be mafkir the leket. It has nothing to do with the owner of the Kerem Ravai being meichal that Kerem Ravai. And the last one here is Ravina. And Ravina says, it's not the fact that Rabbi Yechon said that the Tznuim and Rabbi Doisa hold the same thing. Says Ravina, I would have said that Tznuim is Rabbi Doisa. That the Tznuim here are speaking is Rabbi Doisa speaking. Now, that would have solved all the problems, because then the reason that Rabbi Yechon didn't hold of this opinion, even though he holds of every Stam Mishnah, is because usually the Stam Mishnahs are Rabbim. If you don't give a name, it's the Rabbim, it's the majority, and therefore Rabbi Yechon holds like it. But if we could say that it's Rabbi Doisa, then it's a Das Yachid, it's one opinion. In that case, Rabbi Yechon doesn't hold like it. That's what I would have said. That would have solved all the issues. The problem is that Rabbi Yechon said that the Tznuim hold like Rabbi Tznuim and Rabbi Yosef said the same thing. That means they're different. The Tznuim therefore is a Rabbim, and Rabbi Yechon does have the pasuk like them, and that's why we can't use that simple solution.